I tell people my first sports job was selling Cokes at the game. Group like 2 blocks from the University of Kansas, Rock Chalk and Jayhawk KU. And my buddies, we used to always sneak into the games, and we were thin enough and little enough to squeeze underneath that fence, underneath the scoreboard, and go watch the game. And then one year they locked it down. The first time we found out, that's when an officer said, "Oh, so it's you guys, follow me." He took us to the concessions and said, "Give these guys a job." And that's how we got to quit sneaking into the games and got paid to go to the games.
Welcome to another episode of Unfiltered with J. Chad Parker. Today we have a very interesting guest. If you've lived around East Texas for the last 30 years, you'll know him the minute you see him, the minute he starts talking. I'm going to call him Mr. Sports. Michael Coleman, thank you for being here today with us.
Well, man, thank you for reaching out. It's been a while since we've talked just in general, so I'm glad to talk to you on camera now.
Well, you're an easy guy to talk to, and you always have been ever since I've known you. I didn't know a lot about your story prior to being in Tyler until I started looking into it, and I think everybody else would probably be interested in it as well. Let's talk about where it all started. You growing up in Lawrence, Kansas.
Grew up in Lawrence, Kansas. Been around sports all of my life. Grew up like 2 blocks from the University of Kansas, Rock Chalk and Jayhawk KU. So I tell people my first sports job was selling Cokes at the games and watching Joe Washington and Greg Pruitt and guys like that during the old Big 8 days do their thing. And I was involved in football at the time as well. So I mainly wanted to watch these guys do their thing because I was so impressionable as a young man playing sports. And the way I got that job, myself and my buddies, we used to always sneak into the games underneath the scoreboard, and we were thin enough and little enough to squeeze underneath that fence and go watch the games. And that's what we would do. And then one year they locked it down. And we went, and the first time we found out, that's when an officer said, "Oh, so it's you guys that have been messing up our fence here." It's like, "I know you guys just want to watch the game. Follow me." He took us to the concessions and said, "Give these guys a job." And that's how we got to quit sneaking into the games and got paid to go to the games. And I enjoyed it and learned a lot from that ordeal. And primarily that there are people in this world who want to see you succeed when you're a youngster. When they give you a chance, don't blow it.
What about KU? Were you a KU fan all your life because of that?
You know, I was a huge KU fan. In fact, I went to Coffeyville. I was being recruited by KU from Coach Don Fambro, who was the coach at the time. His wife taught at my high school, Dale. And Coach Fambro's from Longview, which I didn't know anything about Longview at that time. But then he got fired, and they brought in a Bear Bryant assistant who ripped up the old recruiting list and went the whole completely different direction. And
that's where you lost out on.
That's where I lost out. And then when colleges had junior varsities, a former JV coach for KU, Dick Foster, a great man, who was kind of like the Paul Bear Bryant of junior college football. He recruited me. I went to school with his daughter, and he got me there. And then KU came knocking on my door again, and my coach was like, "So KU was sending me letters. Are you interested?" Well, I was away from home for the first time, and I kind of dug being away from home and being independent. I was like, "No, I think I want to see what else is going on out there." And so he just told KU he's not interested anymore. I became friends with Gale Sayers, the great Gale Sayers. When I was in junior high school, he had retired, came back, finished up at KU, got his degree, became the associate athletic director. And
at KU, Gale Sayers was? Because Gale, he retired earlier than he should have.
Because of the knee injuries. Right. They called him the Kansas Comet. That's what they called him. And of course, in Brian's song, he was Black Magic.
Right.
But that
was just licensed, TV license.
Yeah, probably. But I was chosen with some other classmates of mine in junior high school, West Junior High School, to be in this commercial with Gale Sayers. That was my first time I met Gale Sayers. And I was on top of the world. I got $50. I was the richest 14-year-old kid in town, all the pizza you could eat. And we had some lines to say. And he and I forged a friendship. And he had 2 stepsons that from his new marriage or whatever. And we're playing Fort Scott, Kansas. And my coach says, "Hey, Gale Sayers has sent his coaches here to watch you. So, and I'm like, well, you could have told me after the game. I had a good game or whatever, and things began to evolve from there. And my relationship with Gale Sayers even began before I met him. There was the neighborhood barber in my hometown, Bud's Barbershop. Bud was a KU campus police officer. His side hustle was he cut the hair of the athletes, but evidently and obviously the black athletes at KU. Wilt Chamberlain, JoJo White, names like that. And so when you're a little kid and you're waiting to get your hair cut and you see all these black and white action shots on the wall, there's Sayers and there's JoJo White, Wilt Chamberlain, So when I went to college, I gave him an action shot to put on the wall. And he sure enough put that on the wall, and it's kind of, it come full circle for me. So I've been around people like that that have always had an impression on me, to do the best I can possibly do. And of course, the commercial with Gale Sayers was about staying in school.
Yeah. Well, what was it like? I mean, because, we're getting older. I'm 58. I don't know how old you are. But you're a little older than I am.
Just a little bit.
What was Lawrence, Kansas like, growing up in, I guess it would be the late 60s and 70s for you?
It was for me a great time. Now I do recall the assassinations, JFK, I'm a little boy, Dr. King, Malcolm X, Robert F. Kennedy. I remember all of those. And I remember, Lawrence being a college town, I remember the Kent State thing years ago,
right?
The National Guard and the shooting there. And we had some issues that went on in my hometown. My parents, my mother, she raised the four of us. I'm the oldest of four. I have three sisters and there's me. I'm the oldest. But for the most part, she raised us single-handedly. But things are rough when she says, well, look, we're going to go to Kansas City and hide out. So if we got to go to Kansas City to hide out, something's going on in Lawrence.
Was your dad not with you guys?
No, my father, my parents got divorced when I was a young kid. And then my stepdad, they were married for a while, but I was in a home. I saw domestic abuse. I saw a lot of bad things. And I'm really proud that I didn't become one of those kind of people who put his hands on women and
a chain breaker.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, because my father, my biological father, was an educated man. He was going to college when black men weren't allowed to go to college, but he was a dreamer. And he just didn't see things through. Tremendous athlete in his day at Topeka High School.
Did he coach football?
He coached. He was a coach in Arkansas. He was in Lake Village, Arkansas. He was a coach there and did really well. And he would go to Chicago and he would coach there. But he would get out of that and truck driving, just kind of spun around a little bit. And when one of my sisters got married, and I told him, hey, Carolyn's getting married, because there were four of us, but three of us were his kids. And I'll be darned, he broke his neck to make that wedding. And my sister's like, well, listen, you're still giving me away. I said, oh, no, I'm not giving up no seat. You're right about that. But that was probably the best reunion we had when my sister got married, and he was there. Like I said, he passed away. And it hit me hard. I was surprised how hard it hit me that he passed away, because we weren't close by any stretch of the imagination. When I was at Southern Illinois and he was living in Chicago, I spent a spring break going to Chicago, catching the trains and getting there, and he was gone. So the people he was staying with, they were in Cabrini Green projects, the hardcore South Side Chicago. And, oh, your dad, he's not here, but you can stay with us the whole weekend. So
is that Alfini Shakur or the Chicago 7? Are you talking about that?
Well, they had a project area called Cabrini Green.
Yeah, I've heard it on the news.
Yeah. It was rough. Neck of the
South side
Chicago. And, I'm from, a little middle West Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And,
was this while you were at Southern
Illinois? Yeah.
Cause you went to
my spring break.
It was Coffeyville Junior College.
Went to Coffeyville, and then Gale Sayers, because it was Gale Sayers. I'm going to SIU, because Gale Sayers was the athletic director. I'm sorry. He was the AD at SIU.
Okay, so that's the reason you went from Coffeyville
to SIU.
All right.
And
now you must have had a good career, because I've seen somewhere that you're in the Hall of Fame at Coffeyville.
I'm at Coffeyville's Hall of Fame and did some things at SIU. I had a great time and worked with some really good people there. Further, we're trying to play professional ball. Went to a couple of camps. Just didn't work out for me. I said, well, you know what? I got the degree. Let's move on from there, and which I did, and eventually found my way into the vocation. I knew I wanted to go in this business of broadcasting since I was 16 years old. There was no doubt about it. And when I was being recruited, I asked the questions like, well, what kind of broadcast journalism program do you have? And if they didn't have one, I wasn't interested in going there.
Well, interestingly, your major was speech communication.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was that part of your thought process to major in that?
Right. SIU at that time, SIU and Arizona State were like the top two schools of broadcast journalism. So the counselor that I had at SIU suggested, okay, you want to go into broadcast? We don't really have per se a journalism program, but we have a communications program, public speaking and items like that.
Because you have to kind of get ready and develop a style.
Right. And when I played ball, I didn't get a chance to really take part in the extracurricular activities because I was playing ball. I didn't have the time. But when my eligibility ran out and I had like another year and a half or so to graduate, I threw myself into everything. And here's another story. I auditioned to do the news for the WSIU radio FM station, NPR, public broadcasting, and they had a local feel to it, and I didn't get it. I didn't get the news part, but he gave me the farm report. Give me the farm report.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, he gave me a bone, and I had to walk. And the days that I was assigned to do those reports, wintertime, the hot summer, cross that bridge on foot, go to Fader Hall, do my little recording and go back. So I was pretty loyal and faithful to doing that. I've always thought being involved in sports helped me create a tremendous work ethic. And I applied it there and then got to be where I had to replace somebody because somebody didn't show up to do their news slot, this particular guy. And I would go and I'm doing double duty. So then the summer semester, they were having tryouts, but the gentleman said, hey, listen, I want you to do the news. And, cause you've been so good at filling in, it's yours. I'm not going to hold a tryout. And I thought about it. I said, I'm going to pass on the try. I'm going to pass on that. And he says, really? But you wanted it. I said, well, yeah, I wanted it when I tried out for it. But you saw, and I had to prove to you subconsciously, when you called me to come in and fill in for this guy numerous times, that was my audition for you. And I think you should have taken me the first time around. I said, because whenever you called me at the last minute, I was there for you. And I think that taught me a lesson. I think
that you could say no, and still succeed.
Exactly. I was the guy who really wanted it. You gave it to your buddy. Your buddy let you down. I didn't let you down. So if I come on board, you're going to be safe. And I said, my point is, you kind of give me an idea. This is how this business is, that you can try and try and try and be told no. And eventually somebody say, you know what, let's give this guy a shot. The only reason why you're giving it to me is because I proved myself to you because somebody didn't show up. And he was shocked. He said, no one, this is a cover. I said, I know it's all that you're telling me that it is. But I feel somewhat insulted that you would give this to me because I proved myself because your buddy let you down. I said, I'm not mad or anything like that. So I did that with my head held high.
What did you do from there?
I became probably one of the original Uber drivers. They called it transit drivers on campus, but I'm still in school, but you have a campus car, a transit, about a fleet of like 8 cars, and you take university personnel across campus. Hey, Gale Sayers is over at Fader Hall. He needs to go to the arena, to the field house. I need you to pick him up. So that's what I would do. And like I said, that's the original Uber right there. So I did that to finish up my schooling at SIU.
Now, at this point in time when you're in college, have you ever been to the South?
My father was from the South. So I had, but I didn't spend a lot of time in the South. Now, I worked for Nielsen ratings, finding out what people were watching on television.
How would they, test or check the ratings back then?
What they would do is, this is long before the days of computers, they had diaries. And you would go collect these diaries, or they would mail the diaries in. They find a family, a group of people who live in the neighborhood, supposedly random. These folks, their job was to find me X amount of number of families to be in our survey. And what my job was as a Nielsen rep, okay, you have a spec. All these addresses. In this case, my first experience was in Texas. I was Houston area. I did a hotel in Houston, 610. And you go to these people's homes and you would invite them to be in the survey. Here's what's really crazy.
You wouldn't have to watch the shows with them.
No. And here's what's crazy. And then there's like a self-addressed envelope, and you send it to Florida, Clearwater, Florida, maybe Dunedin, Florida. What's really weird is they would pay white families $1 a month to be in the survey, and they would pay minority or black families $2 a month. And there's a racial connotation with that. I'm not sure what it is.
Usually, I was expecting you to say the opposite, right?
Right.
That you were going to say they paid them 50 cents or less. And so, I mean, what do you think was behind that?
I don't know. I think it's a case of, if you tell the minorities are getting more than the other people in the survey, they're going to jump on it. Because not everybody says yes.
Or was it incentivizing people to participate in keeping the Nielsen ratings?
Right. And like I said, neither faction knew who was getting how much. And that's why it was always odd, because I had to go through a training process to do all of this. But you ever heard of Vidor, Texas?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I had experience in Vidor, Texas.
I mean, Vidor was in the news,
oh, yeah.
Long after nobody else was in the news.
Well, I tell you what, I had a woman who lived in a trailer in the middle of nowhere in Vidor, Texas, that was on my list to go see.
She didn't like the sight of you?
Well, you know what? She was kind of my savior. Her dogs are barking, and they're little bitty dogs. And I knocked on the door. She says, "Oh, come on in." So I'm surprised you came out here by yourself. And I'm thinking, "Oh, no, your dogs are friendly." She says, "No, this is Klan country."
Right.
I'm like, "Oh, okay." And so what you want to do is you want to meter, because meter means connecting a computer device to the innards of a television. So everywhere there was a TV in the home, that television would get metered. And so she had 2 TVs, and she had three, one in the living room, one in the kitchen, and one in her bedroom. And she had a gun in all 3 of those rooms. She even went as far as to tell me, now the best way to go back to Houston is don't let it be the way you came. And I'm scared, like, oh my goodness. And I had experience, so I had to go back to her. I had to go back. Now I know what's there in the country. I don't know before. But oh my, this little lady told me this is Klan country.
But did you actually ever really have any experience with anyone?
With somebody I did. They weren't wearing a sheet, but I had an experience.
I mean, did they say something to you?
They pulled me over. He had a company car. My driver's license, my driver's license is Kansas, and the car I'm driving is Florida.
So
license plate.
They assumed you were a stolen car?
Well, no, it wasn't that. It was like, if I come up, here's how this was brought to my attention. I got pulled over by 3 guys. One of the guys got out of the truck.
In a cop car?
Well, yeah. Well, no. I was pulled off to the side because I had paperwork I was going through.
Oh,
and I saw this car pull up behind me. And I'm like, oh, shoot. One gets out. My window was early winter, so I had the window to defrost the windows. Window kind of semi-rolled down, and somebody puts their hand on my window and says, "Get out of the car." And now I'm like, "Oh, this okay. This is it." And so anyway, pull me by my jacket on my lapel, and kind of brings me in front of my car. And he says, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Man, I'm with this company, television survey, da 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 da. Well, I see that your license plate is out of Florida." And I'm thinking, yeah, my driver's license is Kansas. So if something were to happen to me, I'm thinking nobody's going to know for quite some time, Talked a little noise with me, had a knife, put it on my zipper of my pants, and scared the mess out of me, and told me to get the hell out of here, which that's the only thing we agreed on. I mean, if he wasn't a Klan, I've been a reference for him. Trust me. I went to the most lit up parking lot at a gas station, but when I got to go back in my car, I was like this. I was shaking. I said, "This is it. I can't do this anymore."
That's nerve-wracking.
I can't do this anymore. And I called them up the next day and said, "Hey, you know what? I'm getting out of the Nielsen business." At that time, the number one watched television show was The Dukes of Hazzard. So I'm like, well, we're really in trouble. But no, it was at that time I said, okay, I got to get back. I got to get into television. So
this has got to be right before 1988. Because I don't know what year. I
got my first job in television in '84. So probably early '80s.
Right.
Early '80s.
But you talk about this experience in Texas, the South. I mean, Kansas traditionally was not really considered the South where you grew up.
No, it's still not. Once you get to a certain point outside of, I'd say the closer you get to St. Louis, the more south it is being claimed. Because Kansas City and Kansas, they're, I-70.
Right.
The Arrowhead Stadium is at the border of I-70, Missouri side and Kansas side. And, but the further east you go towards Columbia, Missouri, and St. Louis, then you're hitting to the south. And that's, they're more southern in St. Louis than it is Kansas City.
So your experiences growing up probably were not anything like the experience you had as a Nielsen salesman?
No, not at all.
All right.
I'm not saying that those who I grew up with, I don't think people I grew up with, because I grew up in a mixed neighborhood. I mean, a lot of the people I associated with were great friends of mine and still are to this day. And we talk today like we didn't have those issues back then. And, the 70s was a really cool laid back era at the time. And that's why I'm really surprised they didn't progress from there, but no, I had a great childhood. I had a great time. Despite stuff in my life that was going on in the household, the domestic violence and all of this, I always had to be the one to put on a straight face and to be the cool and calm one. I mean, I didn't have to be, but that shit was my demeanor.
I mean, it's still your demeanor today in a way, right? Just the way you are.
Yeah,
I mean, you're friendly with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
People like you.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of, I don't know if you developed that trait or that's just who you were.
I think, I tell you, I had an incident in Florida. I was on a date. I'm going to get gas. I see two guys sitting in the truck. As I'm walking to pay my gas, someone yells, "Hey, N-word." Well, I know there's two guys in the truck. I'm not going to be a badass and try to take on two guys. My cape's in the trunk. I can't get to it fast enough. And so I go in. So I'm about to pay my money. I'm waiting in line. I'm like, which one of these suckers said that? And then I'm thinking, what you going to do when you find out? Right. And so as I'm walking in, actually, a guy walks out and gets into that truck. So now there's three guys. And so I'm like, which one said it? I know who didn't say it. The guy I just walked by. So paying my gas, as I'm heading back to my car, somebody apologizes to me. All right. I'm like, okay, now I know who said it. He said, "I didn't mean to call you that." I said, "No, you did. You meant to call me that, but you didn't get the reaction you thought you were going to get." I said, "Because see, I'm not from around here. You can call me anything you want to call me. I'm not going to retaliate because that's not my style. That's not where I'm from. So no, you meant to call me that, but you looked foolish in front of your boys when you didn't get the reaction that you wanted. And I suspect it made you feel small."
You think that's what it was?
I think that's what it was. Because nobody has to have a reason to pop you in the mouth, but I'm just a guy walking in the store and leaving. Why are you mad at me?
What part of Florida was this?
It was Dunedin, Florida, that part of the state, just south of Tampa.
Oh, that's
Step area.
That's way down.
Yeah, way down. And and that's the thing, man. I fought more black guys than white guys. I never had to fight with a white guy before. I got to fight for my friends.
Well, it's just interesting, time period, obviously, because this is when we grew up, the 60s, the civil rights movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Desegregation of the schools, including right here at what was Robert E. Lee and John Tyler, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that order came in the late 69 or 71, which when you think about that, it's hard to fathom, that the government was forcing people to go to school.
Now, when I was younger, there was strife at my local high school where, I'm like 10 or 11 years old, and my older cousins and friends of theirs, they're doing a movement kind of thing because there were some things that were going on at Lawrence High that didn't think was fair. And they had a voice, they had a movement. And again, I'm watching it on the outside because I'm in grade school and junior high school. And of course, it's been covered in the papers every day. And what came out of it was, and I don't know how it is today, but it was this way when I was in high school. You had a black spring queen, you had a white spring queen, you had Native Americans are real prominent in my hometown, Haskell Indian Junior College.
Is there a reservation or something?
Not a reservation, but the Haskell Indian Junior College is there. And that's where we played our football games on their field. And so you had 3 homecoming queens, you had 3 spring queens. So it was like that. Okay, so this is what you got out of the movement. You want to consolidate. No, they didn't consolidate. I don't know if that exists today. A girl I dated, she won the black homecoming queen or black spring queen, and there was controversy leading up to get that done. Also when I played sports, a lot of the cats that I knew who were black didn't want to play sports because they don't play for the man. but they came out and supported me to watch me play ball. And I said, man, you're pretty good. Nah, man, I don't have the temperament. I don't have the temperament to get along with people like you do. And I'm going to hit somebody in the mouth, but I'll come out and I'll support you. So I was always able to flow back and forth on both sides of the aisle, if you will. I'm not going to say there were no repercussions from the other side, because a very good white friend of mine was called an N-word lover, because he and I were pretty cool, and these guys were my teammates that would say that,
Well, sports would seem to be an outlet or a vehicle to advance yourself. And you say people.
There's small cases, because some would eventually come out and play or something. And for me, it was just, I was trying to find a way to get out. Not because I'm trying to go get out of anything. I'm trying to flourish. I'm trying to be somebody. And I knew sports would be the way I would go. And like I said, if I knew when I was 16 that this is what I wanted to do, and I had success playing sports, that could lead to something. I mean, and so that was my whole job, was like, what am I going to be doing when I grow up? That was always my objective, is find something that you can do and you can do well. And I could converse with people. I could talk sports with people and get along with people. So, I was writing for the school newspaper, and they said, you'd be a good sportscaster.
What about your mother? What about her influence on you?
Oh, tremendous.
To be something else, to be something different from your dad,
Tremendous. I remember one time, I was a senior in high school, and kind of feeling myself, big star, this and that.
Because you got a lot of offers from colleges.
Got offers and got letters and that kind of stuff. And so a really good friend of mine, he and I are really close. And so he said, man, you should come spend the night. I said, I could do that. Yeah. So my mother's at work, busting her tail, working at the local bank. And I'm telling my sisters, tell mom, I'll catch you guys at school tomorrow. I'm going to spend the night with Mark Bernard. I'm my good buddy, Mark Bernard. This is a school night. All right. First of all, you need to be in bed at 10 o'clock on a school night, let alone not spend the night at somebody's house. This wasn't the weekend. And so about 9:30, Mark's mother says, Marky, she called him Marky. Hey, can you tell Mike his mother's here? And so he says, were you expecting your mom? I said, nah, but I think she's coming to get me, because I already knew what was up with that. We get in the car, and we didn't live that far from where the Bernards lived. Although we lived close to them, it was the longest ride home. Who do you think you are telling your sisters to tell me you'll catch them at school tomorrow because you're going to spend the night at somebody's house? Oh, so she had to play the father. She threw the hammer down. And we joked about that later in life. And she said, the thing was, I was scared that I lost you. You decided you're going to do what you want to do and not have the courtesy to listen to me and what I was trying to do. Because if I lose you, I lose the girls, and I couldn't lose you. I had to put you on notice that this is not going to happen. And you're bigger than me. I couldn't whip you. I couldn't beat you. I just had to be stern with you and hope that you still have respect for me to accept the sternness that I was handing down, which I did. 'Cause I would never want to break the heart of my mom. And that just goes today. And so like I said, we laugh about it today, but I see why. I see why. I mean, and I didn't find this out till maybe 10 years later.
Well, let's find our way in your life when you first take a shot or get an opportunity to be a sports director, a sports newscaster, a job in sports. Mm-hmm. What is that opportunity like, or what is it initially?
Well, considering it took a number of years for it to finally happen.
You're working around a few different jobs.
I worked at a bank. All right. I'm telling you, I worked at a bank. When I left Nielsen's, I found a job at a bank. Like I said, I was a corrections officer, but I didn't want to go in that line of work because, I have a lot of respect for what they do. And some people don't cooperate, and you got to be more than what you're supposed to be.
So it doesn't sound that fun every day, day in and day out.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, what's going to happen today? And
prison, right?
Oh my goodness. Although I got along with the prisoners.
Hostage Michael Coleman.
Got along with those guys. Cause there were some times because they had a recreation area in the back, but the people I worked with, they would never take the guys out. I said, why come you guys don't take, you guys need some exercise? And I'm still fresh from playing ball, and I'm still not thinking that way. Oh, man, we're too busy. And then, plus there's a bunch of guys, they don't need, that's all right. So what if I take them out? I said, yeah, you can. It's going to be a pain in the butt. So I said, listen, guys, I'm going to take you out into the rec area. I don't want no funny stuff. The people I work with, they're not into doing this, and that's their prerogative. They don't have to. I want to, but don't make me look bad. And I am developing a rapport with the prisoners, the county prisoners, and they did a great job. So I get out that job, and I'm bouncing around with Nielsen. I leave Nielsen. I go apply for a job at a bank.
To do what?
Not a teller, but before computers, people's information was left on an index card.
Right.
And people were Mrs. Jones from Fifth Street. How can you tell me what my account number is? What's the amount of money I have in my bank? That kind of stuff. Oh, this lady again. She just called yesterday. So that's what I did. But when I got the job, the woman's like to my resume, said, "Well, you worked with the Nielsen ratings and you've been a corrections officer, blah, 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 blah. What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, I want to be a sportscaster, but it's hard to find a job right now." And at that time, cable was just getting big. And she said, "Well, I don't know if we're going to be able to keep it." I said, "Well, listen, I would stay here until I got a job on TV. And the way my luck has been going, that's not going to happen. So I perhaps foresee myself becoming the president of this bank because I won't get a job on TV." I think she hired me because she liked my sense of humor.
Right.
So I got the job. Well, what happened? 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from Dodge City, Kansas. And they're like, "Hey, we got your tape here. Not bad, but I want you to know that you're one of 5 candidates for this job."
Had you put a tape out there as an audition to get a job?
I've been doing that off and on for years and never got a bite. Big old 3/4 inch tapes, which cost money to send, and go get the pop bottles and turn them in for deposit, get cash, and send the big tape off. And
is this in the 80s?
This is in the 80s.
Is there do more stations have their own sports department, or were those outsourced back then?
Good question. When I went to Kansas City, when I left New York, they did not have a committed sports department for 9 years.
When you went to New York, as I understood it, you went there to develop one.
No, Kansas City is where I developed.
Okay.
When I left here the first time, I went to work in New York, spent 8 years there. A friend of mine who was a news director at the KCTV5 CBS affiliate in Kansas City, which I grew up watching as a kid. Same man. They hired me, and they hired me on the condition I can bring sports back. And they asked me if I had somebody in mind, and I told them yes. Are you interested?
And that was you.
That was me. And keep in mind, this is a station that did not have a committed sports department for 9 years. So they outsourced it to the cable station. And the guy that was doing the sports there was the guy they fired. So he ended up being back in their graces again. But that began to be expensive. And TV stations don't like spending money. Right. And so they figured, well, it's going to be cheaper to bring sports back. So I brought sports back to a metropolitan area of Kansas City. I hired the producer, who's now with ESPN. I already had they had one sports guy already in-house, and he's still there. So this was a huge challenge. Not only was I going to be the sports director, anchoring and doing my thing, and I was a chief sideline reporter, and I did a lot of stuff before the Mahomes era. That was a big challenge, but I embraced it. Because this station, which I used to watch as a kid growing up, didn't have sports for 9 years, and that was crazy.
I mean, it has to have been exciting for you to go to the station that you'd watched as a kid and be an anchor on that station.
Teachers writing me.
Everybody you ever knew.
I one lady, she's passed away now. She was the school secretary at Riverside Grade School. She said, I looked up and they'd say, when we come back with sports with Mike Coleman. Everybody knows me as Mike Coleman back at home. Or Michael Coleman. They know me as Mike Coleman on TV. It's Michael Coleman. She's like, I remember a Mike Coleman at Riverside who pretty good football player and went to school to be a broadcaster. And she said, as soon as we came back from commercial break, she said, oh my God. So when I saw that honorary grin of yours, I knew that it was you. And nobody writes letters anymore. She penned a beautiful letter, and I hope I still have it. And it brought me to tears because this was somebody who was in my life, and she was telling me, wow, look what you've done with yourself. And that's pretty cool. I mean, it's one thing for families saying, family's going to say that, but for somebody that you hadn't seen since you were 12 years old, and then she sees you on TV for the first time, period, that was golden. That was golden.
How long were you at KCTV in Kansas City?
I was about 7 years.
Okay, so during the 7 years, you've been brought there to develop a sports program.
Right.
That way, y'all produce it in-house?
Right. I had a show. In fact, we did more local television shows than anybody in the marketplace. The guy we had, a tremendous guy, Dale Carr was his name. I had a Sunday night show off the bench with Michael Coleman, and it was a Sunday night 30-minute show. There was nothing like it in the marketplace. It was brand new. And
because they needed programming back then, didn't they?
They did. They did for sports wise. Because they still had the contract with CBS for NFL games, and I hosted the Chiefs show. We hosted an NCAA basketball tournament show because KU just down the street. So we covered the Big 12, and we covered the SEC because Missouri would jump in there. But I had tremendous opportunities to do what I was able to do in terms of hosting big time shows, advertisers. We did the Chiefs show that I hosted on Sunday morning on game day. Do the Chiefs games, come back and do a 10:30 to 11 o'clock show. I'd have former Kansas City athletes who were professionals who chose to stay in KC come on the show. And a lot of these folks didn't know that these guys are still living in town. And they're like, how did you get him? I didn't know he was in town. Willie Wilson, Frank White, who's a big politician there now. So I was able to, and I competed against Lynn Dawson, the great quarterback of Lynn Dawson, who was the sports anchor at the ABC affiliate. And
after his playing career.
In fact, he was the first sportscaster in Kansas City.
I mean, that's strange. You don't ever think of us. Of a professional athlete, football player going to that'd be like KLTV having Earl Campbell as the sports director.
Well, see, and this is at a time when television news locally was expanding. Okay, because television news used to be on for 15 minutes, but it was the early era of television, and
more advertisers.
More advertising.
The longer the show is.
Right, yeah. And so Lynn Dawson would interview these people while he's still in pads. Yeah. And there's a camera there. Yeah, because the players would talk to him. And so when the other two stations, CBS or ABC or he was ABC, NBC and CBS, they didn't have the insight that he had.
Did Hunt on the TV station?
No, he could have though. In fact, I think it's somebody from the Hunt organization, Lamar Hunt organization, that recommended, well, if you're thinking about doing sports, you gotta get Lynn Dawson.
I mean, because that's like having Michael Strahan on Good Morning America and also on the weekend.
Sure.
Right?
Or Frank Gifford, because Frank kind of started, I think Frank started that former jock becoming broadcaster. And I think Frank Gifford began that in New York. But it worked its way to Kansas City.
So it sounds like, you developed and got a lot of experience in Kansas City that you didn't have from the Tyler job the first time.
Well, it's funny you say that because when I left here the first time and I went to New York, it's opening day, Yankee Stadium, right? I'm going to go look. Okay, we got you live at Yankee Stadium. Oh, wow, Yankee Stadium. Oh, my God. Oh, this is it. This is it. And I'm there because they're at a new stadium now, but this is a stadium that Babe Ruth played in back in 2003.
The old stadium.
The old stadium, the original. And it's about 2 hours before airtime, and I'm walking down in the area in the bows, as I say, of Yankee Stadium. And you see these black and white pictures of Lou Gehrig, Babe Ruth, and I got these butterflies in my stomach, man. I'm like, okay, I got to quit looking at these guys because it's making me antsy, and I pulled it off. And the thing is, I'm the new guy because these other New York guys are like, well, who is this guy? Well, who's the new black guy that's doing a live shot at Yankee Stadium?
Let me ask you this. You said that. Who's this black guy? Were there a lot of black sports casters, sports directors back when you first got in it?
No. In fact, someone had brought to my attention that throughout my years, when I was a sports director, like in Austin, there was only like 5 of us who looked like me that were sports directors. And I didn't know this. And he told me one of them was Greg Gumbel. Wherever Greg was working at a local market. And of course he was one, my buddy.
But we're talking nationwide?
Yeah.
So you're go up to New York, which I'd assume there'd be more integration at that time. And, you'd see.
Oh yeah. New York was wide open. I mean, think about New York. This is not long after 9/11.
Right.
Not long after 9/11.
Okay.
And when I got there, I got to tell you, I got to get this in. When I got there, that was still lingering. I got there in 2005. So, or
when you
03.
Say
I got there in 2003.
Was it a feeling or was it just what you could see?
Well, it was a feeling. And in fact, the station I was at, it was a Long Island station, News 12 Long Island, a cable station. And it's Long Island isn't but 30 minutes from Manhattan.
Is that where some of the fire trucks came from?
No, they may have that. I don't know. But what happened with News 12 was the first 24-hour all news cable entity.
Kind of like CNN?
Right. That's right. There was a plane crash before I got there, like in 1987, 88. A plane crashed on Long Island. Well, News 12 and not the New York City stations, they were the first one on the scene. And CNN beamed it up internationally to see this, and that's where the coverage began. And they had it, roped off. But when the other station had come, they were Johnny come lately because, well, you let them in there. Well, they were here before we were. So I guess when you get there first, that's your domain. And so that really put News 12 on the map. And there's News 12 Long Island, News 12 Manhattan, News 12 New Jersey. Here's what you're going to really like right here.
It's a bigger brand is what you're saying.
Right. This owned by the Dolan family. The Dolan family owned the New York Knicks, Madison Square Garden, the Rangers hockey team.
Right.
Tried to get the Mets, but they couldn't get it. And the Madison Square Garden, MSG Sports. The patriarch who passed away a few years ago, he was the one that put the highlights of sports together that people used to watch in the movie theaters back in the 40s and 50s. He did it first in Cleveland. He goes to, New York's a bigger market. I'll go there. And boom, it exploded. It exploded so well, he created HBO. So the guy I worked with was the son of the father that created HBO. And then when he sold it to Time Warner, thus Time Warner HBO,
right,
he had all this money and he built different news stations in the form of cable on the Eastern Seaboard.
So that experience in New York, how was that different? Because you had come, you went from KLTV
it was different.
to News 12 in Long Island.
Like I said, back to that my Yankee Live shot.
Yeah.
2 months ago, I'm live at Rose Stadium. And now I'm at Yankee Stadium. And so the only difference is, there is no difference. The only difference is the butterflies. And then you realize, it's the same thing I did in Tyler.
Is it the same job, like morning, noon, and night in the preparation and the show?
It is, but that's a good question. It is, but it's different because I had a staff. See,
right? You don't have a staff here.
I'm the staff here. Right. I get some help, but it's for the most part, it's just me. But when I got to News 12 Long Island, I inherited a photographer. I inherited 2 producers and a reporter.
You can just be better at your job with all of that around you.
Yeah. Because, when I went to school to learn this and to do this or whatever, I didn't really learn a whole lot doing this. But you're always being told, you got to have the energy. Well, if you're doing stuff before noon, your energy's gone by 2 and you don't come on yet to 6.
But, down here in Tyler, if we're thinking about you at News 12, all I can think about is like, where do you live? How long does it take for you to get to your job? And how hard is it to get to Yankee Stadium from where you live?
Well, good question. Live on Long Island. There's a Long Island Railroad, but no, we had a crew. We would drive. Now, we never really covered NFL in New York because it's in New Jersey. And if the game was at noon, you probably would have to leave at 8 in the morning because of the bumper-to-bumper traffic.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Yeah. I was thinking about, how do you get around in order to be productive in an area that...
Because I was making plans. I was making plans to cover the Jets, and I said, "Oh, hold up, hold up there, Sheriff. We don't really do that." "What do you mean don't do that? We're in New York." "Yeah, but..." And they gave me the logistics. Now, I would get to cover horse racing, the Preakness up there in Long Island, which was great, and that took a while to get there, but you make plans to leave when you leave, and it's just a once-a-year event. Belmont Stakes is what I'm thinking of, and but that was a great experience covering horse racing. I loved it, and 'cause I love horses. They're tremendous athletes, and just the energy that the folks on the island, the Long Island, would generate. So there were a lot of other things I got a chance to cover.
What about Kentucky Derby? Have you ever covered that?
I never covered Kentucky Derby, but since Belmont Stakes was number 2 of the three crown event, I had never done hockey before, but the New York Islanders are on Long Island. So I became the New York Islanders reporter. And so I had to bone up on hockey, and it was cold in those arenas because, of course, the ice on the floor, but I had a great time there. So I got a chance to do other sports outside of my realm, which forced me to do my homework. Because if you don't do your homework and don't know your stuff, New Yorkers are going to let you know. And I was pretty successful in being able to do that. Covered 2 World Series, New York Yankees, covered both those series.
Never covered any football up there, though.
Never,
not even the Bills?
Except when the Giants went to the Super Bowl and they beat the New England Patriots. Yeah. I got to cover that because it was in Arizona.
All right. So after that New York stint, you go to Kansas City, you're doing all of this. It's about a 7-year run from looking at your resume. This is where you meet Gina, your wife, is in Kansas City.
Met her at a spot that I go to on the plaza.
And didn't know her beforehand
Didn't
growing
know her
up?
beforehand, was very much single and all that, still doing the single life. And a guy I grew up with, who's a man about town. He's a big fan of musicians and music and all this. And his father, that's how far back he and I go. He was my little league quarterback. He was Mike Edmondson. He was my quarterback in little league. His father was my gym teacher, and I had tremendous fondness for his father. His father played a big role in my life. And so Mike comes in with these two ladies, which is not unusual, but they just happen to be at the Billy Joel concert at the Starlight Theater, I believe. And Mike, we go, so I'm going to go down to the plaza and go to Falloons and hang out. Okay, we'll meet you there. So the three of them come in. I see Edmund says, hey, come on, So I'm with another buddy of mine. We're sitting there. And he's introducing me to Teresa. And then he's introducing me to Gina. I shake Teresa's hand. I said, well, I want to know who this lady is. And so and their girlfriend was like, oh, I'm chopped liver.
So y'all must have hit it off.
Oh, we hit it off. We really hit it off from day one. And in fact, this was the night before the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight. And Teresa, her girlfriend, was going to have a watch party.
What year is this? Do you know?
Oh, yeah, we just had this conversation. It's 14.
All right. So
2014.
And so you date her for a couple of years, 15. Don't you?
Yeah, a little bit, because she didn't know who I was, which I thought was cool. Because she's like, afterwards, people was like, because we tell the story. And actually, people, you know that is, don't you? She's like, no, that's Michael Coleman. Okay. And I said, oh, okay. She must not have cable. So I had a date that next night.
She didn't even know you.
She didn't know who I was.
Even though you were doing the news, sports at night.
She was in the medical field. I don't watch TV. I don't watch news. So the next night, her girlfriend had this party, and Gina's like, so you're going to come? I said, no, that's not. And then I knew this was the one. I didn't lie to her. I could have lied and not told her I had a date, but I had a date. I said, nah, I got a date tomorrow night. And if I brought her with me, I'd be paying more attention to you. That's one of my lines,
That was a good line, because that makes it look like you were stuck with her, but you really wanted to be with Gina.
Yeah. And so my buddy wanted to go. So I'm going to drive you over there. I want to see if Gina's there. And she was there. So I thought, where's your date? I said, well, it's not him, but it's, I'm on my way. I said, but I'm going to call you. She said, all right. So from that point on, things fell into place, and she was good for me. I'm crazy about her, and she's just a good person. She's a good person.
Now let's talk about this. I mean, it sounds like Kansas City was really a good experience for you as a professional.
Oh, it was. It was tremendous.
And that you had been brought there to bring back the sports department to the network. And you had done that. And so for me, what's interesting is to find the article that Michael Coleman's out at KC TV and has had a rough 6 months. And to read that article and wonder just how, the job part of you not being extended a contract in 2017, how that happened in your mind.
I don't know.
I mean, have you ever speculated like, well,
no,
do you think that maybe it was the reverse of, I think it was Metro Sports, where they started to say, I don't want to spend money.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring.
I will say there were other people who were on the chopping block too, like our weatherman, who's flourishing now in San Antonio with my former news director from KC. The woman who married Gina and I is flourishing out there in Arizona. I don't know if it was like we're trying to
get smaller.
Get to decrease the money situation, because we're up for sale. The irony of this is, the station that owns the company that owns Channel 7 now owns KCTV5. So I'm back in the family, whether they want to be there or not. That's just the nature of this business. But, and they did tell me, it's funny, they called me in the office and they're like, hey, listen, and we had a news director. I went through, after my main news director who hired me left, I went to 3 more afterwards. It's like an offensive coordinator coming and going, and the development of that quarterback is not happening because you got too many people coming in.
Are there personality conflicts and things of that nature in the business that you have to deal with?
Yeah, there are, but that's everything. That's everywhere in life. And my whole thing is just stay in my lane, do my thing. And if somebody has a problem with me, if they don't talk to me, it means I'm doing okay. If they call me in the office, something must be up, and let's get it straightened out and let's move on. There was a conversation in Germaine's office, but when I got out, I was like, what was that meeting about? And then like 3 days later, hey, we're going another direction. I said, well, what direction are you trying to go? That you don't think I also go that way? Now, this was the 4th news director. He'd been there for 2 months. You know,
He had his own ideas.
yeah, but it's funny because the first time I had a conversation with him, he made the comment, the last place I was at, I fired the sports director in 2 months. He said, I don't mean anything by it. I'm like, well, why are you telling me this? Well, if you don't mean anything by it, why can't we have some other type of conversation?
What did you take from that comment?
I ain't gonna be here long. I'm the ultimate sports director, and I wasn't wrong.
When they told you that you weren't coming back, I mean, were you surprised, or had you felt like you saw it coming?
I didn't see it coming, and we met in another. We didn't even meet in the guy's office. We met in some break room with the HR lady.
Sorry, Mike, you're not coming back this year.
Yeah, and so and they just hired a young lady that I found. I thought we had an opening. I said, hey, I think you need to send us a tape. I told her, hey, I just saw this young lady. So it's one of those things where you found somebody that you didn't know that's going to take your job is what it was,
Who took your job?
Her name is, I don't know her. I don't say her name, but here's the thing. Here's the thing.
All right.
They've been through 3 sports directors since I've been gone, including her. And
you've been at KLTV ever since.
Kenny Bowles, the late, great Kenny Bowles, who I love that man so much. He was good for my career when I came here the first time. And when I moved to New York, he and his wife would come to New York and let me know in advance. I would meet them in New York a couple of times and we have drinks and laugh and dinner and that kind of stuff. And I might tear up on this, but he called me. He said, what are you doing?
Did he know you'd been let go?
Yeah. He says, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm doing some radio. You don't belong on radio, man. You're a TV guy, let's do something. It's all right. Do you have an opening? I can. Oh, this is what it's like.
Yeah.
This is what it's like.
Who was the sports director at KLTV before?
Oh, I don't even know. I don't even know.
Danny something?
Oh, no. No, Danny was I think you're thinking of Danny Ellsman. He was at 56.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was. I think it's Christian Woodard. I'm not sure. I don't know their name.
I don't remember.
But he called me around in October, about this time of the year, as a matter of fact, almost 9 years ago, I think. And my wife had never been to Texas before. She worked at KU Med Center in Kansas City. She's a heart stenographer, does heart sonograms is what she does for a living. And had a great job and a great renowned university. We come out here for Thanksgiving time and she fell in love with the city. And I told myself, yeah, this is going to be it. But I'm thinking, I'll wait till we get back home to tell her that I wanted to do this. We didn't get halfway out of here. She says, babe, I think you need to take this job. It's okay. That's cool. And so, that March of 18, I think.
Yeah. It was
March of
like
18.
April.
Yeah. Spring of 18. I'm out here and it's like, it was like old home week because I got the same treatment here that I got when I got to Kansas City. People who knew me remembered me. I rode a bull one time. I don't know if you knew about that. I rode a bull and, a live bull at a rodeo, a black rodeo. And I rode this bull and I got bucked off. Of course I did.
Yeah.
And, people remembered that. It was like, hey, ain't you the guy that rode that bull? I said, yeah, I'm the fool that rode that bull. So at that time I was young enough to do different crazy things. I don't do that kind of stuff now, but I was so grateful that Kenny Bowles had, wanted me to come back and then he dies. I was at the hotel. I was staying in the hotel in the Loop, and I had just left the station getting to see everybody that I knew, Joe Terrell, Mark Skirtle, knowing my guys, and I leave, go back to the hotel, and go by formerly of can't remember what's gone now, but get some dinner, and Joe Terrell calls me and says, "What are you doing?" So I just came by whatever place it was to get dinner and go back to the hotel room. So I got some bad news for you. Kenny Bowles just died.
Did you know Kenny was sick?
I did. But when I spoke with him, everything was cool.
It didn't sound like.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he didn't let me know I'm dealing with this. He's like, I got took care. He said, I'm sorry I didn't call you last week when I told you I was dealing with a medical issue. So, all right, we're still here, whatever. And, it was just heartbreaking, man. It really, woo. And, so my first weekend was me speaking at his memorial.
When you moved to Tyler to take that job?
Mm-hmm.
What about the, in between contracts, What does a guy like you do to make a living, say in the 8-10 months between the Kansas City job?
I was doing local radio in Kansas City, trying to get it going, but I just didn't have the resources and the tools. I mean, they were gracious enough. Their local radio station, a couple, 2 or 3 sports radio stations. They gave me a program, but it wasn't working.
Kind of like Paul Gleiser here.
It wasn't working because
Bill Coates.
Yeah, and I had to buy the airtime. I was like, well, what kind of job is that? So I got to buy the airtime, and I got to find the commission and the advertising, and so I said, this is not gonna work. And then that's when Kenny called, and things fell back into place. Because this is where I belong. This is what I do. I do television. That's what I do, and I love television. The world's changed, social media being what it is. I mean, you look what you're doing. I mean, that's how much change has evolved in terms of communications. Anybody can now have a platform. And one thing about East Texas television, it is still must-see TV. People still want to see their kids on Friday Night Football. They want to hear their kids' names on the television report and all of that, doing good things.
Right.
And I grew up in that era. And I really pushed that era. I've gone from tapes being this big to now being like this. But we're seeing the change and the evolution of broadcasting that in a lot of parts of the country, it's not that big of a deal anymore. And that's why social media, and that's why we have what we have, the live stream with ETN at Channel 7, because there are now new ways to reach your audience in addition to the broadcasting old school ways. So, that's that. I've seen the change in this business tremendously. I'm not going to say for the better or for the worse. It's just that things change.
Yeah. I mean, there's always the debate about what kind of future does TV have going forward with, capabilities. I mean, like the one I have here, like even just a simple cell phone with the cameras, the video capabilities. People on social media doing their own shows. I mean, it's the news, it's the weather.
I will say this, though. For people who say television is dying, and that's not what you're saying.
No, I'm just saying that's a question people keep asking.
But people don't run up to you when you have a cell phone on them. But if you have a camera on your shoulder, they run up to you, right? So that, as long as people still do that, TV's going to be around a while longer.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, there is a certain aspect to that. And, Texas high school football, you've seen the difference, I'm assuming, between being in New York, being in Kansas City versus Austin and Tyler. Tell us how differently the population looks at high school football.
Well, you look at a high school stadium like All Saints.
Right.
It's beautiful.
Right. It wouldn't exist in somewhere.
Not where I'm from. Not in
They
New
wouldn't
York.
put the funds in.
Right. In New York, they're more, where I was at in Long Island, they're more lacrosse. Which Jim Brown played. He played lacrosse and football at Syracuse. But they're more lacrosse than they are football. And when I left here to go to New York, one of my last assignments was covering Adrian Peterson's signing to go play for Oklahoma.
From Palestine.
And we had a nice little relationship with him. And when I got there, they were asking me, so how will our football compare? I said, oh, dude, you can't ask me that question. And they said, it was the OU Texas weekend coming up. Okay, who should we watch? Because I'm so-called authority because I'm from Texas, working wise. Because there's going to be a kid, he's a freshman, Adrian Peterson for Oklahoma. Check him out when you watch the game. Well, he had an Adrian Peterson kind of game.
Marcus Dupree, freshman-like.
Exactly. And my cousin played against him.
Edwin Simmons, Texas, freshman-like.
Exactly.
Right?
So when I see my guys on Monday, they're like, oh, my God, this Adrian Peterson guy.
Yeah, right.
So now I'm like the foremost authority because I gave him one little tip and it panned out. What's really cool is when Adrian's father was in prison and he's still in high school, I tried to do an interview with his father. And let the voicemail, just a bunch of voicemails. And then
what angle, what were you trying to
I was trying
learn?
hey, your son, he's bursting onto the scene, one of the top players in the country.
You got to be proud of
Yeah, that was going to be that angle right there. Like, wow, how are you feeling, that kind of thing.
You're getting a lot of love in the prison. People are like, hey, your boy's doing good. Yeah.
But the warden called me and told me emphatically, we don't have celebrities in jail. So no, I'm not going to let you come up here and interview Mr. Peterson. But I got to meet Mr. Peterson. 2 years later, Adrian got drafted. And he of course, he got invited to New York when they didn't rotate the draft. It was at Radio City Music Hall. So my crew and I were there. I see Adrian across the room. I say, hey, man, remember that kid I told you about, Adrian Peterson? Yeah. That's him right there. Now, you'd have thought he'd been in the league for 10 years the way they were acting because they just saw him that one weekend. I said, let's go get an interview. Think you can? Yeah. And as soon as Adrian saw me, he gave me a big hug. His mother gave me a big hug. His coach was with him, and the coach introduced me to the father. And he
Was
tells
this Bob Stoops?
No, well, his high school coach. I'm
Oh.
sorry, Adrian's high school coach. I don't remember his name, but Adrian's high school coach tells the father, "This is Mike Coleman, and he's like one of the first guys to start covering Adrian when he started taking off in high school football." And he goes, "Did you try to get an interview with me when I was in Texarkana?" I said, "Yeah." Oh, because when he said your last name, it's like, okay. And he's like, I said, "Can I get an interview now?" He says, "Yeah." So I got a chance to interview the father. That long-awaited interview I got. And so some guys, and Adrian had just been drafted, and so some guys from the Minneapolis press heard this conversation. "Oh, so you covered Adrian Peterson in high school?" I said, "Yeah, I was working at ABC affiliate in Tyler, and he lived in Palestine." And so they started interviewing me about young Adrian and what was it like covering him, and how strong was he at that level before he got to OU. And so I got a chance to interview and be interviewed on that particular day.
Well, it's funny you say that because when Patrick Mahomes got drafted and blew up, I developed a relationship with the Kansas City Star reporter named Vi Gregorian.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Vi.
I know.
And, it's funny, Vi would almost interview me early on, because I had coached him so much.
Yeah.
And he and my son were such good friends. My older son, Jake, was in his wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And Vi would always call whenever there was something going on. And sometimes I wouldn't say anything.
Right.
Like, if there was trouble and it wasn't Patrick, somebody else,
right.
I would just say, well, Patrick, the way he handles things, he'll probably say this is just a family matter, which he usually does.
Right.
But you're right. People get excited when somebody local makes it, right?
Yeah.
And you just hope that everybody turns out like Patrick, and that doesn't always seem to happen.
And let me tell you this, when I was in New York, and my news director, who used to be the anchor, Joe Terrell, his kids went to school with Patrick at White House.
That's right.
And Joe is an avid Cowboy fan. Of course, that's kind of redundant. It was all one and the same. And he would send me clips of Patrick and his exploits at White House.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a library on his phone of his high school plays. And he said, "Man, this kid here, he's gonna be a first round pick in the NFL." He said that I think in Patrick's junior year. So I'm in Kansas City, still working. I'm still working.
Yeah, because what year?
I left there. I think I was there his rookie year when he didn't play. Because he took off his second year because Alex Smith was still there.
Right. Yeah. His first year he sat.
Yeah.
Except for the Denver game.
Yeah.
The last game of the season.
So I'm covering the draft watch party and this and that and going on. Everybody's humped because Kansas City's got the first pick at number 27, I guess.
They move up
to
10.
And people were thinking, "Oh my God, we're going to get Deshaun Watson."
Yeah.
Oh, they were going because they just come off a championship with Clemson and Watson had and this and that. And Kansas City Chiefs pick
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, they go, huh? Okay. Well, of course, the rest is history from there, And I had a good buddy of mine. It's like, "Oh man, they should have taken Watson. They should." What's he say now? "I'm glad we got Mahomes."
Well, a lot of people didn't know about Patrick.
No, they didn't.
Because, I took him his junior year with Jake to LSU Junior Day. They both got invited. When we got there, I assumed wrongly that everybody was going to be all over Patrick and know who he was. And the strangest, people were asking him like what his mother's wingspan was, like measurables.
Oh, okay.
They were like, "Now who are you?" And Patrick, he wanted to play baseball.
Yeah.
And LSU had a great baseball team. But in the end, he only got a couple of offers. I think it was Rice and it was Texas Tech. There might have been one more, but SMU didn't have a baseball team. And so they were out. But it's interesting that a guy like that, ends up being the most famous person in the world.
The face.
Right? He's the face of the NFL.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot of people, because, you cover the Cowboys training camp every year as a sports director, don't you?
I do that. And I'll go back even further. I used to cover Dennis Rodman. When I worked in Ada, Oklahoma, KTEN, Dennis Rodman was playing for Southeastern Oklahoma State in Durant.
Huh.
And he was an old man when he got drafted. He was 26 years old when he got drafted. And I remember the summer before he got drafted.
Why was he so old?
I'm not sure if he's held back in school or what the deal was, because he's from the Metroplex. He's from Dallas.
Yeah,
so, yeah. He may have set out, I'm not sure why, or maybe started late, who knows. But his coach called me and said, listen, I got a player that I think can do some really big things. I know you cover new covers, but can you kind of cover us a little bit more and focus on Dennis Rodman? Because I'm be more than happy. If I get somebody a shot and help them get a shot, I'm there. And I would cover him religiously. And then I got a call come draft time from the Detroit Pistons, Detroit TV station. Hey, do you have any video of this Dennis Rodman guy? I said, are they going to draft him? Well, he's the only guy they're talking about. So, yeah.
How would they even know about a guy from Southeast Oklahoma?
Scouts.
Because he wasn't a shooter.
No.
He was only a hustler.
But he was a rebounder.
And that's what I'm saying.
In the NAIA championship game, he had like 43 points and like 20-something rebounds or something like that. Something crazy, something monster like that. So I think, they kept the line on him. And so I go to the story about him, don't you? Do you know this story?
Which one?
Well, that's true. That's true. This is before Madonna and what's her name? Carmen Electra.
And didn't he go to North Korea one time too?
Yeah, he's friends with Kim Jong-un. I mean, the guy gets around. Right? Yeah. He had a family in Durant, and they took him in. Now, the reason why they took him in is because they're a little boy. The little boy at 10 years old had one of those 3-wheelers. Him and his buddies out there doing their thing. Well, his buddy, the little boy's buddy, I can't think of his name now, the little boy's buddy at the same age, 10 years old, got rolled by one of those 3-wheelers and killed him. So this young man, the friend, saw this, traumatized. So now mom and dad's got to figure out a way, we've got to get little Joey back to life because he's not himself anymore. So they enroll him at a basketball camp at Southeastern Oklahoma State. And he and Dennis Rodman, they hit it off. They get along, and Dennis is having fun with him. He's having fun with Dennis, and he's coming out of it. And hey, mom and dad, can I have Coach Rodman for dinner? Can you come over for dinner? Now, mom and dad don't know Mr. Rodman's a black man. They don't have any clue about this. Oh, well, yeah. Oh, honey, that's a good idea. We pay camp money. Now the coach is going to have dinner with us. The player coach is going to have dinner with us. They drive up to the school or to wherever the location is. They drove right past Dennis. And so they're like, well, where's he at? He's back. You just passed him. Oh, okay. So they bring Dennis to dinner. And they listen. He brought little Joy out. Again, Joy is just an imagination of mine. And they got along really well. It worked out. Then came spend the night. He's back, but yeah, he got a friend with him. Guess who's coming to dinner? And so,
what's the age difference?
Oh, shoot. If this little kid's like 10 and Dennis is like 21.
I mean, nowadays, you'd want
to be careful. Yeah, you'd look out for that. But, but I think because of the fact that, the basketball team was doing well and they would go to the games and this and that and they had success. And Dennis has told the story in his book. At this part, they would go to the mall because Durant, Oklahoma is not far from Dallas, Sherman in the area. And they would have the young man's mother would tell Dennis, because Dennis knew the drill, duck down in the back of the seat so the neighbors don't see that you're in the car with us. That's racism right there.
Well, I mean,
they were ashamed.
They were,
or not ashamed. They were ashamed what the thinking was going to be with their neighbors.
Right. They didn't want to hear from them.
Yeah. But then mother one day said, you know what? Don't even do that anymore. No, I feel bad for telling you that. And the rest is history. So they threw a draft party for him. And I think I drafted in the second round, I think. First round comes and goes. It was on TNT or TBS. And I think it was Vadi Divac, somebody else. And Detroit Pistons take Dennis Rodman. And so I was there for that. And I went, but Dennis is going to be a Piston and this and that. And now the rest is history from there. And like I tell people, I knew Dennis when he said thank you and no ma'am. Back in those days, I knew him.
Well, what about, you mentioned something earlier about someone asking you, hey, can you cover this kid a little bit more?
That was Dennis. Yeah.
Right. But I'm wondering, with the red zone, high school football in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you ever have coaches or people reach out to you and say, "Hey, can you give us a little bit
It's
more?"
funny you say that. I was at Tyler High at Rose Stadium when Tyler High played their last game just this past week against Cleburne. I played Cleburne. And this guy, his son plays on the offensive line. Hey, man, I need you to give me some shots of number so-and-so. I don't want to say the number. So, all right, if he's doing something, well, he's going to be doing something, but he ain't getting no love. I was like, well, I don't know what I can do, but if he is if he's what he is, I said, how big is he? Oh, he's big. You can't miss him. So I said, that's a big.
How big was he?
Oh, he's like 6'5", 271.
Okay.
So, yeah, he's big. And I thought, somebody will see him. I mean, I don't know what mom and dad don't know, but this kid, if your run game is good, the kid's going to go somewhere. So
especially if he's that size.
Oh, yeah, they can work with that kid. They'll work with that kid, So, but that's the only time. And the guy wasn't joking, and he's part serious, but I was like, well, I'm thinking, well, I can't do that because I'm going to miss a good play. Now, if he's in that play, that's a different story. But no, it used to be scouts would call TV stations says, hey, do you have any reel of so-and-so?
That's what I was about to ask.
Yeah, but now that's a big business now. You can go to
I mean, they've got their own film.
Yeah.
Well, every year you go to the Cowboy training camp, and you've been there for, I guess 2 different stints for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Have you developed relationships with, the Cowboys organization, their media people, players, things of that nature?
Tony Dorsett, Regina Lockhart, although Gene and I just became friends 2 years ago. But not really. I don't really fraternize.
I didn't know
those guys. Yeah, I don't really, unless they're completely removed from playing, it's a different story. But, I've always wanted, I don't want to be the intruder. I don't want to be the guy that, that's the guy's in the media. Be careful what you say. I don't want anybody to be careful about what they have to say around me. And that means I'm not working, and I don't want to hang out with those guys when I'm not working. Now, I know some guys, they have, and they've done it, and that's fine, but that's just not my style.
But aren't you competing for time with the players for your own show back home?
Not really, because they give us the players.
They do?
They give us the players, yeah. They say, hey, we're going to give you John so-and-so and Smith and this, and then, we all get it. And,
for each individual reporter. Do you get your own?
No, you don't get your own. You don't get your own unless somebody just wants to talk on their own. But usually they'll say, hey, we're going to give you 3 guys, and we all gaggle around them. It's called a gaggle. We all get around them, put our microphones up there and that kind of stuff. We ask our own questions. But you don't get it. It used to be a time when you could meet the athlete for lunch, do a story with him, do the interview with him. Thank you. Have a good day. But they don't do that anymore because when we do interview these athletes,
they're controlling the message a lot tighter.
They're recording the interviews. In the past, they never did that. But, somebody were to say something that they think is crazy and it gets out there. It's like, were you aware they're going to say, no, I didn't know that. Now, how do we get out of this jam here? So they become very protective of their players.
And you'd probably get pressure from the team to the station not to put something out.
No, we don't get that. We're pretty good. We don't, unless you mess up. But like we talked earlier, guys got their own platform now.
Yeah.
Some of them don't want to talk. I'll do my own talking. I don't need anybody to interview me. Like what's his name? Michael Parsons. He's got his own thing going on.
But the NFL requires the players to talk to the media.
They do. Or you can do
or you get fined.
Well, I'm just here so I don't get fined. And Marshawn Lynch's line, there's commercials everywhere and he don't say anything. But yeah, you have to post game. You do. Yeah.
The red zone is kind of a signature piece for you.
Mm-hmm.
Did you create that and start that?
I didn't. It was here before I got here. Now, when I was here the first time, we had something called High School Football Scoreboard Show. How imaginative is that, right?
Yeah.
But now the red zone, that's me.
Right.
I threw that element in there, and I can, I get a kick out of the brand that it is because I can go to the grocery store and there'll be little old ladies.
The red zone.
Yeah. Or if someone say, hey, that's the red zone guy, and they come on talk to them, I heard you say red zone, but you didn't say it right. Now, I want you to say it this way, the red zone.
But that's something you came up with.
Mm-hmm.
They might have had high school highlights
right.
Friday night later because it's an extended broadcast.
Right, sure.
Right?
Yeah. But yeah, that part right there. But, and then the lady is like, you want me to do it around all these people? I said, I do it every Friday night. And so she did it and she got a kick out of it. So to me, that's that's the pat on the back for what we're putting out there like that. And it's something to have fun with. I mean, that's the whole idea of sports, is to have fun. And I've always had fun being involved in sports. I was a track guy before I was a football guy, and I was able to play football and run track. So fun is the optimum that we want to have.
You think the station trademarks, copyrights, something, the Red Zone, to keep, some other station just simply announcing that they're doing the Red
No,
Zone?
because there are Red Zone everywhere. I mean, they have Red Zone everywhere. They got the Red Zone on satellite TV and this and that. The Red Zone on the field, actually. I think it's about how you interpret it. Because when I was in Long Island, and they saw that we did this football show here, wasn't the Red Zone, as I told you, but we saw this football show here, and my news director, Pat Dolan's like, I saw that you did a football show on Friday nights. Could you do a comprehensive sports show? I'm not going to say no to anything. I said, yeah, okay, let's do a pilot. And I'll let you know a secret. The Red Zone, the way I say it, comes from another place of how I used to say something. We call it the Sports Rush. And so we put this pilot together, and I said, the Sports Rush. And so I just took that and brought it back here to East Texas.
Well, have you developed any relationships with players, from this area?
Earl Campbell.
Because I think Earl, and I think kind of DeMarvion Overshawn.
Yeah.
He's kind of,
right.
He's coming up.
Yeah. DeMarvion,
Adrian
great
Peterson.
story. Adrian Peterson. I covered Pat's father when he was playing baseball back in the day. When I first got back here, he gave me one of my first interviews I got back here. Earl and I are very close. In fact, when I was living in Austin, I was the one that told Earl he was going to the Hall of Fame. And that's before computers and internet and all that. We had the ticker tape.
You told him
that he was going into the Hall.
Actually, that he was, or you were just projecting?
I came across.
You were the guy knocking on his door?
I came across. I think Landry went in when he went in. I saw Earl was going in. And I had just met Earl, maybe months before. So I said, shoot, let me give Earl a call and get an interview. Say, hey, how you doing, big guy? Hey, what's going on? Coleman? Hey, congratulations. So, thanks, man. And he goes,
what for?
Yeah, he said, what'd I do? I said, you know about going to the Hall of Fame. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, okay, he wants to hear it. You are going to Canton, Ohio for the Hall of Fame. You know that, right? No, man, I've been out of town. I just walked in the door of my office and my phone rang. So I picked it up and it was you. Now my phone light's blinking. Maybe that's what they're telling me, but for real. I said, yeah, dude, you're going to the Hall of Fame. I'm trying to call you to get an interview with you. So, well, come on down.
He worked for UT at the time.
He was at UT at the time, and he had an office. And what's funny is, when Earl went to the Oilers, there was a running back named Ron Coleman, I believe, that he beat out. He got beat out. He beat that guy out the day he got drafted. And so Earl would always call me Ron, but I said, well, it must be because of this Coleman guy, Yeah. I mean, how many other he don't know, but one other Coleman, that's Ron. So we forget about the Mike part. It's Ron. So went to his house. Went to my station, sent me to Hall of Fame to cover him going into this ceremony in a little bit. And he always called me that. My photographer, why does he keep calling you Ron? I said, I don't have to tell him my name's not Ron. And he's such a humble guy. And so that followed Monday, everybody's at home and I'm back at work. And Roy Firestone, remember, he had that up close and personal interview show, a great show.
Yep.
And he had Earl on, and they're like, so what were you doing when you got the word that you're going to the Hall of Fame? Now my producer and my crew in my office, we're watching this. Oh, man, Earl's going to show you some love. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. Well, there's an awesome sportscaster named Ron Coleman. They go, Ron Coleman. It was really funny. Even it got extended. I went to the house one time, knocked on the door. Come on in. His wife Renee says, come on in. She's ironing. Oh, hi, Ron. And then years later, Joe Terrell's father-in-law, who was a writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, he wrote a book about Earl. And they had a big book release, and we did a story and did pictures and this and that. He goes, why does everybody keep calling you Mike? I said, because that's my name. I got you when there's Ron Coleman in my book. So I said, well, we know who it is. We know who it is.
But I mean, when you look at the money in sports and the evolution of the people, the pundits,
yes,
right? The prognosticators, ESPN was the first, and now you've got, these podcasts like Pat McAfee, Colin Cowherd, there's this huge audience, I guess, and sponsorships for people just to talk sports.
Yeah.
I mean, Did you ever think that would be the landscape when you started in this business?
Never. I didn't even know what a pod was. It wasn't a pea pod. No, it's about the technology. You mentioned it earlier. We have camera phones. I mean, I've used, and my fellow colleagues at the station, we use our phones to shoot our stories.
Now. Right, because the quality is so...
The quality is really, really, I mean, you're putting photographers out of business, So this business is...
cameras out of business.
Putting cameras out of business. Yeah, not putting people, putting the cameras out of business. But no, I knew, never would have thought this, I mean, I'd like to see who was the first person who had the very first successful podcast. That'd be very interesting, no matter what the subject is, but maybe it should be sports. But no, it's across the landscape. I mean, you got 18-year-old kids that could do this now, I mean, that's... so if you're watching and you're that age, come give me a holler. I'll work with you.
I mean, what about football? Let's talk about football specifically. What do you think the future of football is? That is high school football. Let's talk about that first. Money for the schools, parents' concerns about concussions, lacrosse and other type of sports increasing.
Football is the athletes are going to start getting paid. I mean, there's just no guardrail anymore.
You're saying even from the college level below?
Below, yeah.
You think there'll be NIL money in high school?
Yeah, there's going to be money at the high school level. I think high school sports would be treated like academy sports, where, I hate to say this, where the grades aren't going to be as much of a concern as they are right now.
Right. It's more, like you say, it would be more of an assembly line academy for some of the coalescing of the best players to move forward.
It's like Votech, right. And shop class, we're the football players, but they called it shop class back in the day, but this is what it is now, but we get paid now. So no, I think that's the case. As long as you got big guys out there, it's going to always be football.
Do you think because you think it all stems from how successful the NFL is?
Oh yeah.
That is, even the 2-minute non-warning in college football this year, the games are getting to be very similar. So there's a seamless transition from college to pro for the players.
That's why you see coaches getting fired at the collegiate level. Mr. Franklin.
James Franklin.
I mean, he won 13 games last year. And so
he lost 3.
He'd
been he was nearly in the national championship.
He was taught glowingly. People talked highly of him 3 weeks ago, and now he's dirt. And that's the downside of sports.
And then there's the portal.
You
can change the team from one.
And I heard, and here's how that has changed. Heard an announcer go, "That's John Hamilton, formerly of Notre Dame, Indiana, and now Ohio State," or whatever. I was like, wow, they got to fit in more time to acknowledge the schools he's been to.
One argument is, and sometimes I find myself saying, well, good for that kid, because, a John Mateer or somebody for Oklahoma, last week's Texas OU game.
Yeah.
Right. Guys move around, especially the Oklahoma quarterbacks each year.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
Dylan Gay,
Yeah.
Baker.
And the quarterback from
Jalen Hurts.
Who went to UCLA. I don't know how he's faring, although he upset.
Well, Caleb Williams went with Lincoln Riley.
This is the guy who was at Tennessee. Remember, he wasn't getting enough money.
Right. I can't pronounce his name.
I can't pronounce his name either.
He made a bad move.
Mm-hmm.
He bluffed and they called
his bluff.
They called him, right?
Yeah.
But he did. He did beat Penn State.
He did beat Penn State. That's probably why he really got fired.
Yeah.
That's why he got fired. That guy beat you.
But the Aggies, I mean, I'm a Longhorn. I went to Texas, and my limited sports career was, I ran the scout team for the Longhorns.
Made them better.
1986.
Made them better.
Fred Akers last year, but he got fired.
Right.
But, the Aggies they're hot right now.
And so is his coach. So their coach. I mean, I've heard his name attached to that job. I don't know if it's going to happen, but, and that's another thing. It's like
A&M can't afford another payout.
Yeah.
Can they?
Well, I mean, I've heard his name along with the Nebraska coach's name, and Urban Meyer's name comes up every time there's an opening attached to the Penn State job. And it's like, well, Elko just got there. I mean, are they going to pay him to keep him, or how's that going to work? See, what's happened is all those things that coaches teach us as little boys
are not true.
Well, yeah, it's the loyal thing, right. and handle
your turn.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff. But hey, when they're dangling this in front of you, my turn. And that's what happens.
I mean, that does, speak to how much influence money has.
Oh, it's
right.
I'm going to say it's ruined the game. It's ruined the hearts, because you know what? And I can't remember who said it. It's only natural when you've eaten a whole bunch of food, you don't want any more food. Oh, I can't eat anymore. But money is like, how much money do you need? You don't need any more money. Come on, so it's a sad correlation, I think, because you played, I played, we're all athletes. You play for the fun of it, for the love of it. The Negro League guys, they weren't getting paid what the big guys are getting, but they played for the love of the game. And, an eye-opener for me, kind of off subject, but eye-opener for me, I got a chance to visit a former Negro Leaguer years ago. He was kind of bitter.
Satchel Paige or somebody like that?
Somebody from that era. He was kind of bitter. And because I love the movie. One of my favorite movies. Money? Well, I love the movie Bingo Long, the Traveling Motor King All-Stars, about the Negro Leagues and the barnstorming. And, it has something to do with Billy D and those Richard Pryor, those guys. Yeah. They had a thing going on in the way they portrayed it. And a lot of the Negro Leaguers, as I have come to understand, they don't like that movie because they felt like they were being made fun of in that movie.
Because they look like they're having too much fun?
Well, yeah, like it wasn't like that. Now, it's Hollywood, and I get all that. But I don't think what they understand, they may understand now, because my good friend Bob Kendrick, if you've never been to the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, I urge you to go there. He does a tremendous job of telling their stories. And when you see a movie like that glorifies the Negro Leagues, it doesn't tell you about the pain. And then when it does tell you about the pain, they do it in a humorous way. For some of these guys, that doesn't go anywhere. That's still within them. And so when I think about us as young athletes, playing for the love of the game, that's what the Negro League baseball guys did. And I think today,
it's all money.
It's all money. That's unfortunate.
But you say that, but it's created this other metric. I hear scouts, I hear GMs now talking about not just the person, his character, but does he love football?
Football.
Right?
Yeah.
Does he love football? And that's an outsourcing of, hey, the money creates, Jamarcus Russells or somebody.
Yeah.
Ryan Leaf.
He
couldn't play, right? It wasn't. I don't know if he didn't have the love of the game or didn't have the skill, right?
Yeah.
But you've seen some guys really shut down the intensity and the workouts and everything else once the money was there.
Well, and the thing is, to your point, how could you play something that you don't like? How can you go to practice and get the stuff knocked out of you, but you don't like it?
Johnny Manziel essentially said he didn't really like it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because people are like, I can't believe it. You've got a shot.
That shows you how talented he is. You're taking your talent for granted,
Or he had that talent and just didn't enjoy the game.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that could happen. Yeah.
But his years at Texas A&M were pretty exciting.
Oh, the first time I saw him was in the Alabama game. So who is this guy?
I mean, I started watching him every weekend, and I went to Texas because he was so exciting.
Yeah. And I didn't know his connection. I did not know his connection to Tyler. I went to cover. It was he, the linebacker from Notre Dame, and the Kansas State quarterback. And I was still in Kansas City. They flew me to New York to cover the Heisman thing until I got a chance to hang out with Earl. And Earl's like, he's from Tyler. I said, no. And then I found out later that when I was here the first time, a friend of mine who's passed away, he had something called Little Dribblers. He said, yeah, you met him when he was a little boy. The little Johnny Manziel
Pop
played
Warner.
for me.
He played Pop Warner. There's a Pop Warner football league here. The Hurricanes, the Ravens, I don't know. He played in that.
Okay.
And then there's the basketball, which is the Little Dribblers.
But I like the talent. When people ask me about East Texas talent, I said, let me tell you something. I've worked in a bunch of places in my 35 years of doing this for a living. The cream of the crop, without a doubt, is East, not Texas, but East Texas.
You think above the Metroplex?
Yeah, I do.
Houston?
See, the thing is, those numbers, the numbers and the depth up there are spread out. Down here, it's all concentrated. They're 15 miles apart from each other, 25 miles apart from each other. It's not unusual for us to have two guys who were drafted and they play ball against each other and they live 40 miles away from each other. Perfect example of that is a kid that went to the Raiders, went to West Rusk, and a kid, and then Marvion.
Arp.
Arp, yeah. So yeah, the West Rusk and Arp, and I can't remember the other kid's name that went to the Raiders 3 years ago. Then the following year, Marvion gets drafted. there are more numbers there, but in terms of being a concentration, it's down here, man. I mean, it's just amazing.
Can you think of a player or players that you covered that you thought there's no way this guy's not making it, and it didn't work out? I mean, just the talent was so high.
Not offhand, but I know there are.
Because there's been some great athletes at the high school level here that they kind of disappear when they go off to college.
Yeah.
Some of them don't work out.
Yeah. I can't think of any right now, but I know there has to be at least one or two because not everybody is a can't miss prospect.
When you first got here, the high schools were Robert E. Lee and John Tyler.
Yep.
And the rivalry was huge.
And Longview and Lufkin and Nacogdoches, they were all the same district. And they were bopping heads. This is crazy.
I mean, that district, back then, which was the district that I played in when I was in high school.
That was a man's district.
The schools have expanded. 6A is a new thing, and
7A is around the corner.
And I guess it's just because the big cities are just getting so big.
Yeah, and the population. Because every 2 years, and it's coming up, the realignment. Some schools get added, some schools get dropped because of their population level in high school.
Do you think the school districts at some point, if things get tighter, that some school districts won't have football because of how much it costs?
No, I think you're asking for trouble there. They'll take their kids out and go to a school that has football. We'll just do it that way. So
for those that want to
play.
Yeah. Because there's also the band that kind of goes with that, right?
The band, the pep club, and all that stuff. And that's the thing about football. Because it's the beginning of the school year, everything is fresh.
Everybody's all excited.
Everybody's excited and everything. School started. The band's been practicing. I live around the corner from Legacy. I hear the band every morning.
Something to do on Friday
nights, and it's really great. And this is also telling. Miss a football score. Don't think you won't get phone calls. Miss a basketball score. Phone don't ring.
People would call you, go, hey, what about the Alba Golden score or whatever?
Yeah, but they don't call you about the basketball scores. But they don't call them in.
But what's now Legacy and Tyler High, they moved that game to the beginning of the season, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean,
early, like the week 2, week 3.
Right. I mean, it's early on. In the old days, it was always the last game
on a Saturday.
Yeah.
On a Saturday.
When I played, it was still on a Friday night.
Still on Friday?
They moved it to Saturday during the day, I think, because, there was kind of a history in Tyler of the week of JT Lee week was always fraught with some.
It was a big week.
Things that are crazy. Like people would be flagging, there'd be fights. There was all this stuff that used to go on.
It was normal.
From the 70s that kind of carried on.
Yeah. I mean, it had a college atmosphere during the week leading up to the game.
And, with that missing now, I mean, you cover the rivalry now, so I don't know. And I haven't followed it as much.
Yeah, it's just a different brand of ball today. Some folks maintain because there are more things to do for high school kids and people that it's not the only thing to do anymore in this town to watch the game, But if you love football, you love high school athletes, you need to get out and support them because it's the backbone of any community. I don't care what size the town is, it's the backbone.
I mean, it's the smaller communities for sure, right?
Most definitely.
If the school is large enough, like a 2A or 1A to have, a full football team, then they're pretty well supported.
Perfect example. Last Friday was the 50th anniversary.
6-man?
No, the 1975 Big Sandy State Championship.
I saw that on the news. They won
3 in a row. Lovie Smith, and David Overstreet. David Overstreet's son, Junior, is now an assistant coach with the Dallas Cowboys. Did a story with him when I was there and, got a chance to talk about his father. And it's like, I was 3 months old when he got killed. But Lovie Smith was my mentor. So I know about East Texas football. People talk East Texas football. And to your point about the smaller schools, they love it because it brings them together. That's why I don't understand the strife we have in this world. Because I'll be at airports and hang out with other people and see everybody who don't look the same, all just engage and just be, hey. And when I hear all this stuff about where we don't like one another, it's like, well, where are y'all getting at?
I mean, that's one thing I was going to ask you about. Sports seems to be such a uniting force no matter where you go, right?
Yeah.
and you travel a lot and you've been around people, and it seems as if people actually like each other and get along better than we are being told.
Yes.
Right?
I believe that.
I do too.
I've always believed that. And I'll be at an airport. I remember I was at an airport and I was watching the interaction of these strangers. Like, well, I thought we don't like each other. How is this possible that these folks are getting along and they're talking and having to, just waiting for the airplane, So they're lying to us is what they're doing.
And the question then has to become, why would the media want us to believe that we had many more differences than we actually do?
Yeah.
I mean, is that to distract?
Negativity sells.
Right. I mean, that's
like a car wreck.
Right.
I'm gonna look at it.
Imagine every day where there was just good news out there on the front.
I think TBS tried that a long time ago and it didn't work.
Right.
It's like nobody wanted to watch it. It's like, oh man.
I mean, there was a double homicide in, so-and-so city. Right. Everybody's tuning in.
But no, I think we get along more than people give us credit for, and we need to start giving ourselves that credit because we're part of it. I grew up that way. Like I said, I didn't have any issues coming up in my hometown. I'm still great friends with some of these people. But I got away because I'm one of the few people that left home, some of my friends, they were kids of real estate agents or bankers and they got a nice life, but they're still who they are. And, we have a reunion coming up next year. They've asked me to MC the reunion. I've always been the MC of something because I was the student council vice president as a junior in high school. I mean, that's the jock. I was the jock, but also the vice president of student council. So I've always had a way with people and being able to travel in different lanes and not have any remorse or regret about it.
And, being personable, it drops a level of fear and misunderstanding sometimes, and people are more open to knowing who you are. Yeah. Do you think that's part of the reason you've been able to?
Yeah, because I've had some of my black friends tell me that, that I'm against us or them. Right. It's like, well, wait a minute, because I get along with somebody. I especially had that when I was in junior college. I'm playing ball with a lot of guys from the South, from Virginia, from Florida. And because they hadn't been around a brother who talks like I talk, however that might be, they say I talk like a white guy. I'm like, well, that's a good thing because if that's the case, I'm going into broadcasting. So I think I already got a leg up. But once they would come to visit me on the weekends and come home with me for a weekend, they met my friends from all walks of life. They were like, dude, okay, I see you now. I see where you come from. I see you've been around this your whole life. And I see why that's how you are because your friends I don't have very many white friends where I come from in Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia. He says, I ain't got that, but your friends are really, really cool. I said, well, I'm like this. Everybody is everybody. And you got a chance, as you just admitted, a couple of guys I was telling us to see where I come from. Because there's no reason for me to be sharing the same attitude you have towards the man. And there's no reason for you, obviously, because you weren't exposed the way I was exposed to what I was exposed to have the feelings that I have. I said, now I hope this one experience kind of gives you a more open mind. I said, but I don't doubt you at all and what your feelings are, and you have your reasons for it. But understand, we all don't have the same reasons for how and why we get along with people. So I've always been that way.
Well, that's the Bible. Judge ye not, lest you be judged yourself.
Yeah.
By the measure you judge, so shall. I think inherent in that is exactly what you just said, right? That I can't know what it feels like to be you in your 50, 60, whatever years of life that you've had, just like you can't know.
Right.
And I think people assume certain things about each other.
Right.
And they start with that. And sports seems to set that aside.
Yeah, it does. Everybody wants to win.
Because you have a common goal. It's your team.
Yeah. No, that's just it.
Is politics a reflection of that? This is my team.
Right.
I hate that team. They can't be a good one over there. They can't have a good thought
until they become a free agent and join me. All bets are off.
Yeah, right. I mean, right. There can't be one good idea over there because that's that team. I mean,
It's stupid. That's dumb.
Is the thing that's uniting us in sports, a big divider in the rest of society and politics?
It's like in the military. Are you going to take time out if you're in a war to not want this guy to help you out because he's got blue eyes? No, dude, we need all the blue-eyed guys we can get. I think we can beat these guys if you guys join us. Because the common goal is to knock them out. And we don't think that way. And that's unfortunate because I like people.
I do too. That's what
I like people, man. And I enjoy meeting people and I think through my travels, I mean, when I think about my career and what I've been able to do on an independent basis and people that I could have called an a-hole because of the way they treated me, but I don't, because that's just not my style. My mother didn't raise me that way, and she grew up at a time where she could only drink out of this fountain or use only that bathroom, but she's not hard. And she didn't raise her kids that way. And so, I think you take with your life when you move on, what you grew up being around. That's positive. And, I love my sisters and they're all accomplished women, and because of this one woman who saw to it that we could do the best we can possibly do. I have a sister of mine. She used to be deputy mayor of Indianapolis. And the reason why she got that gig is because she helped the guy become mayor. And then the deputy mayor he inherited. So I'm getting out of the business. And he said, hey, to show you my gratitude, I'm making you my deputy mayor. And she did a tremendous job while she was there. And now she's the executive director of California League of Cities out there in Sacramento, which she's a liaison with the California government. And she's she's the first Black woman to have that job. She's the first woman to have that job. We went to school with, and she just had her for a featured speaker, Erin Brockovich, went to my high school.
Really?
Erin's
the movie,
the
movie, case about taking off.
Her maiden name is Patty, Erin Patty, but she became Erin Brockovich, and so she graduated with my sister. So we've had some folks from my hometown who've gone on to do some tremendous things, and color had nothing to do with it. It's about the ability and the qualifications and what you bring to the table, and that's just what my sisters and I we're accustomed to being around people like that.
I mean, that was pretty much Dr. King's, the content of her character speech, right? It's like, hey. Yeah. Let's get to the point where there's not a discussion about what color I am or not. It's what kind of job am I doing? Yeah. But, you hear that from the media. There's a constant talk about, and I wonder if you think this is important. And you mentioned it. This was the first Black woman. This was the first woman. This was the first Asian astronaut. The constant focus. Do you think there's a time when we'll ever, be past that and people will just refer to,
not in our lifetime. I don't think so. I mean, even if it's a kid that's 15 years old, I don't think in that kid's lifetime because negativity sells. You see, I mean, the people who are in charge, they have to be the leaders. You can't be a leader just in name only. You got to lead and show why you're leading. Don't lead to negativity. Okay, it's an old adage. I mean, if you can't find something good about somebody, well, then don't make it worse by talking more negative things about them.
But unfortunately, in business, including the news,
because people are greedy. Man,
that's what has to happen for them to be successful, for them to keep their job.
Yeah.
So we're going to get more of that.
Well, because that's the way they're conditioned to thinking, and they're afraid to think out of the box. And in this case, out of the box would be, don't think negative along with the people that you're in sync with. Like, can they be wrong? Yeah, they could be wrong, but I don't want to be the one to tell them they're wrong, because then you're an outcast.
Well, you've worked for KLTV. The first time was in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you've seen different ownership.
Mm-hmm.
And how has that different ownership affected your sportscasting, sports directing through the years?
You know what? I honestly tell you, I've had opportunities to leave Channel 7 since I've been back. I didn't want to have to break in new people to trust, if that makes sense. Because everybody that I work with at Channel 7, I trust because of the resources they give me they reach out, and when I say resources, I mean like when we do the Cowboys training camp, Misty Wage is a great lady. She's our regional sales manager. She said, "What do you need?" Okay, we're going to get on it. All right. Joe Terrell and I are as much, I always tease him, "You're my friend. You're not my boss, but I'll let you be boss right now." But he's tremendous support. He and I, we were really tight when I was here the first time. Brad Street, no longer working with us, great guys. And now Brad and I, we probably bopped heads early in our careers with one another, because I wasn't a rebel or anything. It's just, and I didn't question authority. We just didn't understand each other, but we were great friends today.
You were a little unorthodox,
yeah,
for a traditional sports.
That's a good way. That's a perfect way of putting it. And when I came back, those relationships were still in place. Pat Stacy's a great guy. Pat was not the GM when I was here the first time. So my relationship with the people, air quotes, upstairs, I've never had that kind of relationship anywhere else I have been. And I like that. So, and I knew when I left it the first time, I am not going to lie, when I was on the way to the airport, I had tears in my eyes. I was like, wow, this is really a good place. But I just had to see if I could do it in New York. That's just me. And, Mark and Jillian and Joe took me to dinner. Try to talk me out of it. I tell them now, if you sprung for dessert, I'd have stayed. But I was so touched. And then Jillian had a big dinner for me. I was so touched that Jillian Sheridan, I was so touched that they would go all out to try to talk me into staying, because we were a team. And that's, you don't get that a lot of places. It's like it is now. Go to work, see you, we'll come back to work. We don't really hang out. But at that era and that time, those were some really good people, and they're still my dearest friends.
I mean, did Tyler surprise you? That is, how much that you enjoyed it and how much it seemed to like you?
Yeah, I think so because, I had a friend of mine. He's like, "I used to work in Tyler. Sports is really big. The racial thing. I don't know. You're gonna have to get used to that." And I don't know what that means.
That was going to be my follow up.
I don't know. I don't know what that means. Now, there's a place downtown. It's not there anymore. And this is my first time here. A place downtown, and I went to it. I didn't have a problem.
Was it a club?
There's a club.
It was out there over there.
It's right downtown. It's just
it's not still there.
No, it's not there.
It was like the West End.
Something you had to go upstairs in an elevator and all that. And so I told my friends who were from here, black and white, "What'd you just say?" "Oh man, I went to the spot across the street. You ever been there?" "You went there?" "Yeah." "Really?" "Man, I heard they didn't let black people in there."
Oh.
I said, "Well, I didn't have a problem. This is how I was looking last night. I still got in." And there's also a funny bit. There's a headstone in the park between my station and Rick's. And there's a line in there that refers to slaves. It's something about being grateful to the slaves or something like that. So I at that time, back in the 90s, so what's with the headstone talking about being grateful to the slaves? I mean, did they have a choice? What are we talking about? So, I'm convinced they've seen that before. They never read it. So put your drinks down. Let's go across the street. Now they want to get mad. So wait. You can't get mad now. It's been there all this time and you never knew about it. So don't get mad now.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's over there. It says it. It's still there. But, I was trying to make a joke out of it, but they're like, "No, man, why would you?" I said, "Come on, let's go." Then they try to get mad. No, don't be starting no riots about something that's been here for 20 years or however long it's been here.
But you mentioned that. Some people do say, and maybe rightly so, at a period in the past or maybe even now, depending on how there's a difference between Tyler, Dallas, and certainly up north.
But you know what though? As
an African-American and how they're accepted or treated, do you feel that way?
I don't. But see, I'm a professional. I mean, I have a purpose.
You're a character. You're somebody people.
Yeah.
They're excited to see you in real life.
Yeah, and there are those who have history here
right.
that I don't know about. I can't speak to, so I would never say that. I'll tell you this: Earl Campbell was born and bred in this town. He ain't never, ever said anything negative about anybody. And if anybody would know, it would be an Earl Campbell. It would be an Earl Campbell.
Yeah, I mean, because he was poor.
Yeah.
He was raised with a bunch of brothers and sisters. His mother worked.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the name Ann Campbell.
They sure
if
do.
You're from Tyler.
They sure do.
I even have a Polaroid of him holding his Heisman, and that I was able to get through, contacts. And
they were really close with the Brookshires. you know, 'cause I know that his mother used to work there, and just a lot of different stories he's told me. And he's, you know, he's really good friends with a member of the Brookshire's family. I think it's Dan, or I think it's his name Dan. I'm not sure, but
I wonder who it is.
talks about him constantly. He's always saying good things about him. So again, you know, it's your life experiences that shape us to who we become. You know, if if I had, I'd like to think that if I had hit a brick wall in terms of getting along with people back in the day, that I would found a way to get around that and to fix it. But you know what? A lot of the cats that I played ball with and went to school with, they were from a completely different environment than me, whether it be from the South or the East Coast, and what they dealt with, and they find a place, and then they kind of come around. Because that's the thing about me. I was around more blacks in junior college and college than I was growing up. You see, that's a switch, and to hear them talk about honky this, honky that. Oh, okay, okay. And so, and I've always dated interracially. I never had an issue or anything like that. You know, I've dated women of all different walks of life, and I've been, you know, I've been called out, but what am I going to do? Punch somebody in the mouth? I got to live my life. That's what I'm going to do. So I've always been able to just live my life as I see fit.
Well, it sure seems like you've been living a good one, Michael. And I really appreciate you coming here and coming on the show and telling us more about you. You're a very interesting guy. You know, you're so positive and uplifting. Your attitude that, you know, I think most people think positively about you, but if they didn't, I think this would probably change how they feel about you.
All I tell people I can do is be the best me I can possibly be. And that's what I try to do every day.
Well, keep doing it, man. And thanks for being here.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks a lot.